I made a video before about how spiritual vibrations or kind of frequencies pull things towards you, and I thought I'd make this video to just kind of follow up to that and explain how, because spirituality is exploding in the last few months, few years. You might be wondering, how specifically does raising your frequency and vibration actually make things come towards you and help you manifest the life you want? Because it seems like kind of a vague term, right? Raise your vibrations. And you hear this a lot. People say, well, when you raise your vibrations, things will come towards you and everything will be fine. But how specifically does that happen? And is there any kind of tangible thing you can point to and say, that's how it works? So before we go into this, I did make a huge video, literally like an hour-long video about how to raise your vibrations. And if you haven't watched it, I would start there, or at least, watch that when you're done with this video, because it's like super valuable training. It explains exactly how to do it and how it works. So yeah, I would watch that if I were you. So the link's in the description. It might be pinned comment, whatever. So how specifically does raising your vibrations pull things towards you? Well, before we get into the specifics of this, I want to talk just about the general concept here. So if you think of vibrations, for lack of a better word, just think of it as in terms of you and your energy. The kind of like personality and the energy and the attitudes that you put out into the world. So, of course, positive people, right, are going to be attracted and focused on other positive people. And you can use an example in your own life. Like, let's imagine you're watching this video and you're probably a positive person already. You kind of have like a good attitude and you want to improve yourself, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. So just imagine now, think about the concept or the idea of spending a lot of time with somebody who is very negative, depressed even, and complaining all the time. And they're constantly criticizing you, they're insulting you, right? Just imagine that for a second. It doesn't feel right. And in exactly the same way, if you imagine now spending time with somebody who's positive and upbeat, and they're inspiring, interesting, and kind, of course, that makes you feel good. Even thinking about that makes you feel good. It's very easy then to understand how, in real life, how people are magnetized to people that are like them, or more specifically, to people that match their vibration. And the reason I think frequency is a good word is because with a radio, when you tune into a certain frequency, essentially what you're doing is you are deciding which frequency you want to focus on. And everything else kind of becomes invisible to you as a radio. You tune into that particular frequency, and that means you hear, or you pick up what that frequency is giving you. You ignore everything else. And it's almost the same way in terms of spiritual vibrations. When you raise your vibes, you tune out that negativity. Not to say that you never notice it, but you don't interact with it and give it your energy. You don't go towards the negativity, Instead, the negativity is a part of life, just like polarity is a part of this world. But you don't focus on it. You instead focus on what you actually want, which is the positive experiences. So that's how it works on a general level. You can even understand how it works in your own life. And like I gave the example, right? You are attracted to positive people, and the negative people, situations, concepts and ideas, when you really think about it, they don't make you feel good, do they? So you can very easily tune them out and just let them kind of pass away or pass through, and instead focus on what you want. So how does it work then on a quantum level? So what happens is, in terms of this reality as a hologram, it's been said that this is like a divine hologram, where every part of it contains the map to the whole thing. The smaller you split a hologram up, the smaller you go. Each smaller part contains the entire image. So what does that mean? So if everybody contains the entire image, everyone contains, I guess you could say all possibility, all matter, all thoughts and consciousness are contained within every aspect of consciousness. In exactly the same way as, a good analogy of this is if you imagine the ocean, right? Now the ocean is this vast, body of water, but it's made up of trillions and trillions of drops of water. If you take a drop out of the ocean, you can't really say it's separate to the ocean. Although you could argue, well, when I take it out, it becomes a drop. But fundamentally, it's the same stuff as the ocean. It contains the entire ocean inside that drop. So it's almost the same with human consciousness. It seems like we're separate, but really this entire experience is just consciousness. One entity, one thing, one energy. So, but what we've done, or what's been done to us, is that we've had these egos develop, these kind of almost defense mechanisms, but it's really deeper than that. And what the ego does really is it just kind of tries to protect itself from the idea that we're not all one. It tries to wrap ourselves in these identities and titles, and it's when we say things like, I am a scientist, or I am a teacher. And we get so identified with that label that we forget that we're ultimately one consciousness. So because we're all one consciousness, because we're all connected, just like the drop in the ocean, we influence and impact everything around us. And this requires a little bit of kind of belief, but it's also backed up by quantum mechanics and quantum physics, because it shows that these experiments show that we are all connected and that there's no separation between any two things. So when you raise your vibrations, essentially what you're doing is you're just becoming a different level of vibration. And then by doing that, other situations and people who are that vibration will start to notice you. There's not really an easy way of explaining it, because that's ultimately how it works. By raising your vibes, you attract other people with the same vibration. So, and it can happen really fast as well. When you change your energetic state, suddenly everything changes. The things you interact with change, the people that see you interact with those things change, and the world seems to change around you. But really what's happening is it's just kind of sorting itself into the correct flow. Okay, yeah, if you imagine the universe or life is like a river. So it's flowing in one direction, right? But what happens is if you put something in the way of that river, the water flows around that thing and it kind of sorts itself into the right direction, into the right place. It's almost the same thing with vibration. When you raise your vibes, the people who are also that vibration kind of sort themselves and are drawn to you, while the negative vibrations or negative people are drawn away from you. And you've heard this probably before, right? The idea that if you raise your vibrations and raise your energy, or even forget the spiritual stuff for a second, if you just imagine it in the general terms of personal growth, improving yourself, motivating yourself. Let's say if you've always been overweight, and then you finally decide, and you've got overweight friends, which usually you would, because we're normally the average of the people we are friends with, and then you decide suddenly to start losing weight, and you get fitter and fitter, and eventually you're in pretty good shape. What you'll notice usually is that the people who are not in shape are faced with a choice, because the vibrations no longer match. You're no longer similar. So what you had in common before is not there anymore. So they're faced with a choice. They either try and bring you down to their level or try and raise up to your level. If they can't do either of those, it creates discord and the connection falls away. They distance themselves, they don't feel like they know you anymore, they say you've changed, or they just naturally speak to you less and less. But really what that is the same analogy as a river. They're sorting themselves into the correct channel, because people want to feel like the people around them are similar to them. We're pack animals ultimately, and we always have been. So that's why one of the most powerful ways to change your life is essentially to do that, to surround yourself with people who are like you, or who are like the person you want to be, more specifically. But that becomes a paradox. I'll explain that in another video, but there are ways around that. So yeah, hopefully this makes sense. By the way, watch the vibrations raising video. It's an hour long. I promise you it's not going to waste your time. It's really good value stuff. And I have literally just today launched my Spiritual Biohackers Tribe. So if you want kind of more one-on-one stuff, it's the only coaching thing I offer. If you want your questions answered, live streams, group coaching, masterclasses, the whole shebang, it's all there. But I don't talk about this very often. So if you're watching this video, you're probably one of the first people to hear about it. So the link is in the description. It's called the Spiritual Biohackers Tribe. And I've got a video there kind of explaining more about that. So if you do want kind of more direct help with any of this stuff, check it out. And leave a comment letting me know what you think about this.